Hello, everyone. Brian Sullivan, Precise Selling. It's been several months, several weeks since we've all gotten together. The objective of today's webinar is really simple. It's all about negotiation. And of course, in our live session, we talked a lot about overcoming price objections. And so we're going to spend the next few minutes talking about some of the things that you can do more effectively when someone says, you know what, you're going to have to lower your price. So we're not going to win every deal. We're going to lose some deals based on price. But the only thing we control is our performance on game day. So I hope you enjoy this upcoming webinar. Okay, so in this training module / automated webinar, we're going to talk about precise negotiation, how to negotiate so everybody wins, especially you. Now, we've all been through it, where we might quote a product or a bunch of products, and the customer, the buyer, says, hey, you know what, I'm going to need a little bit better deal. Sometimes these people drive us crazy. So I'm going to play a little video, and tell me if some of the negotiations you go through feel a little bit like this.
Hi.
Is there a problem, sir?
Yes. A quick question about the final total.
Yes.
You see, yeah, we didn't budget for this.
Excuse me?
This was marked 1999.
Yeah.
Well, I've only got $7 set aside for this.
So what are we going to do today?
Well, I'd like the highlights, but for now I can only pay for a trim.
Okay, so today we're only going to do the trim?
No, the highlights, but I can only pay for the trim.
I mean, how much of the taco stand was one of...
About $12.
Yeah, right. About $12.
Sir, we're not the taco stand.
No, it was... I had beef, same thing as I had here.
You had the filet.
Yeah. Cow.
Okay, let me make a phone call, see what I can do. Maybe I can get you $8.50. Can you do $8.50?
I'll pay for the highlights next time, but for now I need you to just go ahead and throw them in.
So basically you want me to work for free?
No, I don't want you to work for free. It's just a test. That way I can see if my husband likes it, and then you can roll the cost over until the next time I need color if he likes it.
I went through in line items some of the stuff that would just remove.
I'm not making any money on this either. You gotta help me out.
We got a discount bin.
I know, I've checked the discount bin, but I want this one. We can do this. This is not a challenge. This is an opportunity.
We tried, 3 entrees.
Oh, yes. You ordered 3 entrees, sir.
Yeah, well, we ordered, but it's order mean eating. Yeah, we want it.
What's your name?
Todd.
Todd. You gotta work with me.
That one's $19.99.
Mike, come on, let's do this. Let's do this.
Dude.
Well, I can cover your hard costs, but that's really as far as I'm willing to go.
I'll give you $8.50 today. I'll come back next Tuesday. We're gonna make it up on the next one. What do you say?
What?
Excellent. Well, go ahead. We'll pay this time, but what we're gonna need you to do is show us how you made it, so we can do it on our own in-house from now on. You did? It's a great dinner.
All right, I figured we'd start things off with a little humor. But the question is, how do we handle these people, right? So we're professional sellers, but we're dealing with some professional buyers out there who also have an agenda. In fact, many of these people are incentivized to do exactly what you saw in those videos, to pull money out of your pocket. Now, it doesn't make them bad people. What it does is make them effective at trying to do what they're supposed to do. And that is get products and services at the lowest possible price. But it doesn't mean we always have to play that game. So what do we often hear? Well, we'll hear things like, hey, I like what you're selling me here, but would you throw a free one in? Or, hey, can you lower my price? Or, yeah, you know what? I got your quote. I can get it cheaper somewhere else. Or how about this? Give me better terms. It's all give me. Again, remember, they're doing their job. But if there's an expectation that these professional buyers are going to do this, with great preparation, we will know what we should say when that time comes. Preparation will make you a better negotiator. Okay, so what's my objective? I'm big on objectives. Well, I want to help you win the negotiations and money war. I don't like to look at it as a war, but what the heck? Sales is supposed to be fun, and we're all pretty competitive. So let's call it a money war. We're going to talk about a preemptive selling advantage. Again, if we are more prepared, we will preempt much of what the buyer will say to us. And we will help you respond effectively to things like price resistance. Again, we won't win every deal. But if we can keep great margins, and if we can become confident at the price conversation, the negotiation, we're going to close more deals. And again, at a higher margin. Now, there are 10 truths as it relates to price objections. First of all, you're going to get them. Number 2, you're going to lose deals based on price. You're going to win deals even with a higher price. Customers will pay for equal or more value. Preparation will help you maintain a fair sales margins. Customers are trained to ask for a lower price. We're going to talk a little bit more about that coming up. Making money doesn't make you a bad person. Oh, I like that one. Salespeople often lower price without being asked. Volume rarely makes up for a bad margin. And 10, your attitude about price will affect the price. And I will say this, not only your attitude, but what comes out of your mouth as a result of this attitude, your body language will affect the price. Okay, now there's some myths as it relates to pricing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that price does not matter. It does matter. Regardless of the industry, price is one of 3 factors. You have price, you've got the product quality, and then you've got service, right? So 2 of those things we can do better than just lower a price. Now, most salespeople believe that the only way to compete in their market is to have the absolute lowest price. Now, here's the point. If you can't provide any more service than the competition, if you're not creating a customer experience, if you're not doing the little things like writing thank you notes or bringing them new best practices from other facilities or making them smarter, more knowledgeable, if we don't provide that value, well, then the only decision-making component is price. So I don't know if your customers value value-added services. Some do, some don't. But here's my take. What's the downside in being better than every other sales rep who's serving these customers? I'm going to lose some deals, and so guess what? Sometimes I'll get grumpy because, my gosh, I dropped off a demo unit, or I did 2 or 3 meetings, or I brought in new articles, or I brought in maybe something about new regulations, and darn it, they still went somewhere else. Well, here's my take. All right, that stinks. But still, it's not going to prevent me from being the absolute best salesperson I can be. All right. Another myth is if I don't cut the price, I'm going to lose the business. Again, that may be the case. All right. But I'm going to focus on still providing the best experience. And of course, most people think it's different in their industry. You can't sell value added. Now, I know margins maybe aren't what they used to be 15, 20, 25 years ago for you folks who've been doing this a while. But again, it's no option. The only option we have is to be absolutely amazing at what we do. And we're going to lose some deals, but that's okay. Don't let these myths change your mindset so that you don't have the positive attitude to want to go get the business. All right, now you might be one of those folks participating in this webinar / training module right now saying, hey, I don't think Sullivan understands that a lot of this pricing is done internally. I don't have an impact on this. Well, here's my take. If you're a great communicator, a great teammate, and you have a great relationship with the internal folks inside, and this goes for you on the inside also, you pricing folks, have a great relationship with your salesperson out in the field. Together, you can combine to deliver a great experience to the customer, which includes a great financial presentation. And when I say great financial presentation, what I mean is be more involved in the larger dollar deals. Don't just send over a $25,000 quote. Say, I'd love to get on the phone with you, with me and my teammate, and we're going to walk through and describe the value in this pricing. It is so important that you are involved in this. Because again, if you're in front of me and you can justify why the cost is a little bit more than the competitor, and I have some objections and you can help overcome those objections, well, you may be worth a few extra points. You can identify the real issues that I might be having. But if we're just sending over pricing, then it's a little difficult for you to overcome those objections. Now, again, I'm not saying this on the onesie, twosie, smaller sales. But please, on larger dollar deals, team up with the inside, the outside, and let's deliver a great one. Now, I understand you're going to have to discount, but here's what I've noticed. It's hard to break the habit. Once salespeople get into this habit of discounting, it's really hard to stop. So sit back, understand your value, articulate your value, And then if you've got a discount, well, that's another conversation. But don't just start doing it. Now, what would be a good webinar without me discussing the precise selling formula? Now, here's a little brief recap from our live session. Remember the 3 Ps. One is posture. It's your attitude and enthusiasm. And that's not only your attitude and enthusiasm about your daily job, but I would say your attitude and enthusiasm about telling someone how much something costs. You see, something goofy happens in below average salespeople when it comes time to close or it comes time to talk about dollars. There's so many avoid that conversation. And as a result, the decision maker is left all by themselves again to determine whether or not there's enough value in this proposal for me to want to spend more dollars. So I want you to be excited, as excited about talking about the price as you are about the value of the product, what it does, the buttons, so, all the great stuff that all the products you sell do. And next, of course, product knowledge. We're not going to talk about that on this webinar, but then we'll talk about precise actions. Now, you might remember from our live session, we talked about the different types of decision makers. And of course, you've got Winston. This is the guy who likes to win a ton. All right. If he could pull 5-10% out of your pocket, it's been a great day for Winston. Then you have the users. Mostly they care about function, which means we have to do great demos. And of course, I have no doubt the knowledge and skill of the Test Equity, Technitool, all the companies involved is top notch. Amazing amount of experience. So I think we probably do amazing with the users. The managers, the advantage. Now understand that if we aren't delivering a financial presentation or if we don't have an audience with the manager, this guy Winston goes to the manager and says, hey, you know what? The quote we got from Test Equity from Technitool is 8% higher. We got to go with the lower price. So it's so important that we build a relationship with the manager so that we can, again, articulate the value and why we're better. And what happens if we aren't part of the equation? Meaning maybe you're not getting the demo equipment dropped off. Maybe you're not getting that extra couple hours of training with the folks. The manager understands that a lot more than Winston. And of course, the C-suite, the benefit. They really want to know about a partnership. And that is the value of Test Equity, Technitool. The value of the T&M and the EPS businesses coming together because now we can sit at the C-suite level and we can offer so many different solutions. If we don't have a relationship with the C-suite folks, again, Winston owns all the power and he's delivering the message up to the C-suite. My gosh, I don't want that to happen. All right, I've got a dirty little secret that I shared in our live session. And what's great about doing webinars, you can't throw anything at me right here. But here's reality. Me and my team at Precise Selling, we not only teach negotiation skills to sellers like you, but we also teach them to buyers. You say, well, why do you do that? You're going to the dark side. Well, here's my take is, for us to fully understand what's in the mind of buyers, we have to study it, right? And we have to think about what are these people being trained to be more effective against you, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what is in the minds of buyers. And if you are prepared by knowing what's in the minds of buyers, when you hear the things that they're going to say to you, you will know how to respond to them. You see, they too have a job to do. They've got a mortgage to pay and mouths to feed. So they're going to try to be really good at it. But to be honest with you, I'd rather have you be better at it. All right, now I know throughout the day, maybe you're up bright and early and you're working all day, you are selling. But when you're not selling, well, you're buying a lot of stuff too. And there's little doubt in my mind that when it comes time for you to purchase something, you're going to a few different websites. You're checking out Amazon. Maybe you're pulling up some keywords in Google and trying to see who else sells these things. See, you too do great homework. You prepare before you purchase something. Heck, probably before your last vacation, you went to TripAdvisor or Expedia or Travelocity or Priceline.com. You do homework. Well, they're exactly the same way, right? So buyers are being taught before they ever get a quote from you, before they ever do homework, what other options do they have out there? And they're just being logical, right? Because it's what we do. Now, how do we prepare? Well, let's talk about how we can prepare to sit down or pick up the phone and have a discussion with the buyer who did a nice job of preparing. All right, so it's safe to say we have to do our homework. And that homework is we've got to learn what is going on in that facility, right? And just by doing some keyword searches, again, on Google or LinkedIn, we're going to learn a lot about that customer. we talked a lot about precise selling step number 1, which is preparation. Remember, don't ever make a call without a very specific objective. When we talk about posture, that slight indifferent posture as it relates to pricing and negotiation. The customer has to feel that you are very proud of your price. You're not apologetic. You hope the price works for them because the service and the value and the training and the demo units, all of the things that you are going to provide, there's a cost to that. Now, those services aren't for everyone. Some customers don't need new knowledge and skill, don't need the latest technology, maybe don't need the training and the time. You see, if a customer feels that you're so proud of your value and know you can't offer all of those things and be absolutely poor after making a quote, well, they're not the best prospects for us, right? So your slight and different posture is so important. It's important that you don't feel like you owe them anything. We call them bowl beggars. Geez, well, let me talk to my manager. I'll go back. I think we can lower the price. Now, again, if you don't provide great service, if you're not going to be dropping demo units, if you don't just spend a lot of time there, well, then you can match a price. Maybe you could be a bowl beggar, but you can't be amazing at this job as it relates to service and be the lowest price. It just won't work. Next, don't put yourself above or below them. Right? They have to feel like we're equals. And if we're equal in the negotiation with them, again, if they feel like, wow, these folks may walk away, but when they walk away, I'm going to lose quite a bit of value from this person. They're going to be more honest with you, right? So if they respect and trust you, they will be honest. And frankly, if we're not going to do business together, no worries, all right? Good luck. I'm here for you when you need me. But again, when you come back, there's a margin that comes with having a field force of absolute experts. And then stay relaxed and unhurried, right? I mean, this isn't life or death stuff that we are doing. Certainly it pays our mortgage, but we've got to stay relaxed, unhurried. They have to feel comfortable in any negotiation. Okay, so let's say I've got this prospect who's interested in purchasing 20 benches. They need test equipment. They need a whole bunch of what we sell. And I've got a meeting set up with 2 key decision makers. Well, remember, my preparation is huge. Again, I'm going to go online. I'm going to LinkedIn. I'm going to Google. But I will take 15 to 20 minutes in my office the night before to write down the following. What issues might come up in this session, right? In this meeting. And again, by the way, this applies to phone call, inside sales as well, right? Write down the issues. And how will I know these issues? Well, if I did great homework, maybe I went into my CRM, maybe I spoke to my manager, but I'm writing down what might come up, right? Maybe it's some past service issues that we went through. Who knows? But I want to think through this beforehand. Again, remember, we should always have 2 objectives for every call. A good objective is what you want the buyer to do, say, or commit to as a result of you being there. So what do you want out of them today, right? Or tomorrow, if that's when your call is. I will write down their potential needs and interests. So maybe there's one product category that we've been selling them in the past, but we know there's different departments we have not gotten to. Well, I'm going to write down what I think their needs may be, where there might be some interest, and then I'm going to think of the products that can fill in those gaps. And all too often, sales reps walk in very focused on just the product that they think they're going to talk about, instead of really expanding this. Taking the 15 to 20 minutes the night before, or the morning before, will help me think of how can I expand and go deeper and wider in that organization. Now, once I get to the negotiation, we're talking about pricing, I'm going to think, what might they ask for in the form of concessions? And of course, a history with this client will tell me what might be coming. And then any settlement options. So if I can't provide what they need in the form of lower pricing, what can I do? We'll do an exercise on that here in a second. But your great preparation will save you a lot of margin dollars. All right, step number 2 of what buyers think and what they are being trained in some webinar right now as we speak. There's some guy or some gal who is on this webinar saying, okay, buyers, you make sure you aim low. Anytime someone gives you a quote, you come back and you tell them that the price is too high. Remember, they are doing their job. They are supposed to do this. And I will tell you, it's my opinion that 95% of sales reps right off the bat go, ooh, okay, let me go back. Let me talk to my manager. Let me talk to my pricing team and let's see if we can get you a lower price. But understand that this guy, Winston, He may have already found value in your solution. He may be ready to purchase. He's just doing his job by saying, I want to go, give me a lower price. By the way, he's not only supposed to ask once, he's supposed to ask 5 times. So be prepared. It's coming. Now, the very professional buyers think these things. They think, okay, what would be a great deal for me? And as you know, some of these buyers are actually incentivized for saving the company money. So they're thinking through their great preparation is what's a great deal for me. This buyer is also thinking, don't make the first offer or tell you the dollars that are in the budget. Now, I know as salespeople, right, we'll ask that question. Do you have money budgeted in the fourth quarter? How much money do you have? But understand that Winston is going to hedge his bet. If he's got $100,000 in his budget, there's no incentive for him to tell you, I have $100,000 in my budget, right? Because then, of course, you're going to price things at $100,000. He'd much rather have it at $72,000, right? This is why I think it's so important to offer different options, because we can still get at that $100,000 and still make him feel like he is in control. And also, Winston thinks don't accept the first offer, right? If his body language says, ooh, that's too high, or his voice says, ooh, it's too high, he knows that you're going to hang up that phone and you're going to stew on it a little bit, right? So again, he's just doing his job. All right, a funny story here. So I've got a client who I've been consulting and training with for a long, long time. And my contact who I've got a very good relationship with called me recently. And this was funny because out of the blue she said, hey, Brian, listen, we got your invoice for the training programs. And Brad wanted to know if you could do anything to help us out on the price. And I paused. I said nothing. And then I said this, huh? And then I paused again, and she felt very uncomfortable. She smiled, she laughed, and said, oh, listen, you can't blame me for trying, Brian. You know, Brad kind of hinted around that he wanted lower price, so I thought I'd try, and then we moved on, right? But had I not been prepared, had I not known that she was just doing her job, I might have said, well, let me see what I can do. So my point is I want you to not think that the first thing you have to do is give, right? It's okay to provide a little resistance when it's negotiation time. By the way, if you provide resistance and then you still have to give a little, they're going to feel so much better that they won this negotiation. We want them to feel good about this while we are maintaining good margin. Okay, now in our live session, we talked about on higher dollar deals, how it's important to offer different options. Again, let me go back to this scenario of Winston saying, yeah, you know, I can't really tell you our budget, but, you know, I know last year we spent $70,000 on these instruments, and so it might, you know, we're probably in that ballpark. So he's being ambiguous. Well, you think about the average sales rep. The average sales rep will quote right around that price. But if I bring up 3 options, a lower dollar option, maybe the one is at $72,000, and then the one's at $100,000, you'd be amazed at how often you will go and get those dollars, right? But by the way, they're not wasting money. There's new features, there's benefits, there's things of value, right, that will still fit in their budget, and you're getting at those dollars, right? So always offer options when you can. Now, I'm not saying do this on every little screwdriver, right? But we'll want to do it certainly on the higher deals. Okay, again, whether you're outside sales, you're inside sales, you're on the pricing team, again, you know how much I love 3 options. So don't forget the wording that we talked about in our live class. You know, if we do a product presentation, and maybe we're selling a whole bunch of products, don't forget we have to get the big fat yes. So I may say something like this. All right, Joe, so based on what we talked about, do all the products in the proposal, do they make sense? Do you have any questions about these things? Will they do the job? And he may say, yeah, no, those are the things we're going to need for the new facility. And I will say, okay, let's see if it makes financial sense. Now, again, that's slightly indifferent. It's saying, let's see if it makes financial sense. And then we'll go to a triplicate of choice. Again, we're not doing this for smaller products, but I want you to be creative in this. You know, maybe it's test measurement equipment. Maybe there's several units. And we can offer options like rental, or maybe it's financing, or maybe different features. But we don't necessarily know what is in the budget of those customers. And so by offering 3 options, again, we're going to be able to get to some dollars that we otherwise thought we couldn't get to. And then the other thing is maybe if our quote was going to be too high, if we have a lower cost option, maybe we can still win some of those deals, right? So the 3 options take the conversation away from, hey, do me a favor, lower it by 5%. Because if you need a lower cost option, well, we have that for you. Unfortunately, the product won't have all the features and benefits that you discussed you needed. So options will save you margin, and it will also save you deals where they might have gone online or might have gone to the lower cost supplier who can't provide the type of service you will. All right, Winston, step number 3 is taught to always ask for something. So again, that might be lowering your price, but it might be better terms. It might be free product. It might be additional training sessions. They are trained to do this. Be prepared. And how many times are they supposed to ask you for something? Don't forget, it's 5 times. The average or below average sales rep is bailing after 1 or 2, and they're saying, my gosh, I'm not making any money on this deal. See, there's no downside for this buyer to keep asking the question. But again, I want to get back to the different decision makers. Understand that while Winston might be incentivized and trained to ask these type of questions, if I've got relationships at higher levels, the hope is that the higher level folks can, their opinions maybe supersede Winston. Now, in my travels in the field with both Test Equity and the Technitool team, I understood that we had, in some cases, really good relationships at the higher level. And then the buying decisions or the pricing was all done, heck, in a different location. It might have been in the Philippines. In fact, I ran into that a few times out in the field. And so I understand that many of your facilities maybe have separated maybe the senior engineers from the buyers. But again, it doesn't mean I'm going to stop adding value to those senior engineers or those higher level decision makers. What we have to do is become irreplaceable so that those people put the pressure on those buyers to say, what are you doing? Why are you, I can't get the demo equipment. I can't get the service that I need because you had to save 3 or 4 or 5%. You see, we can't always put the pressure on those buyers. However, the relationships we have at higher up hopefully can. Does it work every time? No, but all we can control is our performance. Every time? No, but all we can control is our performance. All right, this is a great preparation exercise for any financial presentation and to preempt any possible price objections. So let's assume I've got a large opportunity. Let's go back to that possible $70,000 deal, right? Or maybe a $100,000 deal, right? Based on the 3 options I'm going to present. I've gotten with my internal pricing team. We're partnered up. We've communicated amazingly. And in fact, we took about 20 minutes on the phone. And I know you might be saying, we don't have 20 minutes. Well, guess what? For a $100,000 deal, we got 20 minutes to get on the phone. So we're sitting with our internal team, and we're going to go through this list of 3 things. The first thing is, what might this customer ask for, right? And so column number 1, what are they going to ask for? I'm going to think through this. There may be 3, 4, 5 different things. It might be terms, might be pricing, etc. Put it down on your list. Now, let's assume this is a very important client. And I want to be able to show that there is some flexibility because they're really, really important to me, right? Again, I want to make them feel like they want a little bit here, right? Well, what I want to do is I want to give them some currency, all right? Now, I'm not going to do this on every deal, but if I have to negotiate, if I have to bend a little bit, I want to think, what is that currency? Now, a currency is something relatively easy for you to give and something valuable to the other side. So I will make a list, on my list, column number 2 will be what that currency is. What can I give them that shows that, wow, I really care about you, but maybe the margin component, maybe the lowering the price isn't that currency I can give. So again, you'll see here on my sheet of paper, what can I give? So column number 2, I'm going to think through, all right, I don't want to jump right off the bat and lower my margin, but what are some of these things that through my questioning, I asked clear questions. We had a great dialogue last call. I know it's really, really important to them. And I can bend a little bit in some areas, not on the margin, but I know they value these things. That's currency to the customer. All right? And again, they feel like they won because we're giving them something. However, it's not something that's going to directly affect our wallets. So here's a small example. All right, so column number 1, let's assume I wrote down lower the price by 5%. Of course, if I did a great job with my internal pricing team and my entire team, I'm going to have probably 3 or 4 things in that list. But let's just start with trying to lower the price by 5%. Well, I'm going to think through, all right, what can I give? Now, maybe this customer I can give better terms, right? Because I know that's been valuable to them in the past. All right, maybe that's something I can give them. Maybe it's additional training. Maybe it's financing. Maybe it's rental. Maybe if I have to negotiate, I can get to a 2% discount. But notice how that is the last thing on the list. I'm going to try to start with the highest value currency to them that doesn't cost me as much. Right? So this is the little bit of give and take. But again, I don't want to give something that's going to cost me a whole lot of money, but I want it to be valuable to them. And then here's the habit. Don't ever give without asking for something in return. Okay, so let's assume this. You know, Brian, I got your quote, or you're presenting this pricing to me live. Thank you very much. I'm going to need you to lower the price by 5%. Well, what would you say? Now, I would recap. I would say, you know, I've got the notes in front of me of our last conversation. You mentioned some things that are very, very important to you. And I know in the past we've been able to work some better terms for you. Now, while I can't lower the price by 5%, what I'd be willing to do is extend the terms a little bit further out than what you're used to paying. But if I extend these terms, here's what I would need in return. With your permission, if the product works just as we said, and of course you believe it will work, it would be great for us to get a testimonial of some of the value that the product provided for you. So I'd be willing to do that if I gave you better terms. So you see what just happened here. This person asked me for a lower price. I came back giving him or her something, but then I asked for something in return. You're almost training the customer that anytime they ask you for something, you're going to be asking for something back. And that is so different from the average or below average sales rep who just says, oh, I can do it. But they don't ask. And understand, if I'm a negotiator and I ask for a lower price and you lower it, but you never ask for something in return, I'm sitting there saying, darn it, I should have asked for more. So I'm not even happy yet. Right? Understand, this 3-column list will make you better prepared. And by the way, it's going to make the customer feel like, wow, I got as much out of that salesperson as I possibly could have gotten. I feel happy about that negotiation. So what's Winston thinking next? Well, he's thinking always ask the right person. You see, just as we talk about as salespeople to know all decision makers, what the decision-making process is all about, the buyer also wants to be asking the right person. And the big mistake the average or below average sales rep makes is, hey, would you be willing to lower the price? And that below average sales rep did not prepare. They didn't put that 3-column list together. They didn't get with their team or their pricing team inside. And so their reaction often is, I can't make that call. Let me go talk to somebody else. Well, we could have spoken to that somebody else the day before. Could have spoke to the entire team the day before. You see, if that buyer thinks that you don't have the authority to work with him or her, right, that you're just sort of the front person, but you're not really the decision maker, Winston is encouraged to go find that person. And you don't want to be that. You want to be the face of the company, right? You are the person who's in charge of all of the relationship and the financial presentation. Even though you've got teammates helping you out, it really should be coming from the person who owns the relationship. And just as Winston tries to find the right person, we know that in precise selling, finding out who is responsible for making the decision is a key component of our questioning. So you make sure you're asking for all of the relationships of folks who are stakeholders in the deal. And when should we be asking who's responsible for making decisions? Well, we know it is the third precise action, engage with questions. Don't forget your clear questions, right? The forgotten question is that R, who as well as yourself is responsible for making decisions. Let's find out up front. And by the way, you can never ask this question too many times, right? Because we don't always get the right answer right off the bat. So keep asking and don't assume you know how the decisions are made. Keep asking. So what is Winston being taught? Step number 5. Winston be willing to walk away? Now, we don't like that one, do we, as salespeople? Well, but that's the reality, right? If they're doing their job by being also slightly indifferent, if they've done their homework, if they've asked the right questions of you, if they got to the right decision makers within your company, the best negotiator will be willing to walk. I know that's easier said than done. No, I'm not saying at all times. I understand there's some deals and there's some line items within a quote that maybe we can be a little bit more flexible than others, right? But again, that's all part of our great homework. But believe me, Winston will be willing to walk, certainly in today's environment where he can get pricing from a whole bunch of places. Okay, so how should we think as the salesperson? So let's assume this person just walked away. Well, first, we also have to be willing to walk away, but not right off the bat. You see, we have to make sure they're not just stalling us. Objections to price often have a larger meaning. It could sometimes mean the prospect maybe isn't focused enough. Maybe their kid's got a soccer game tonight and they're just not ready to make an approval decision. They understand that by asking the seller also for a better price, the seller can delay their decision to another day. And here's what they're thinking. If I let them stew a little bit, let that salesperson stew a little bit, I bet you they come back with a lower price. So we don't know if they're stalling. We don't know if they've got other things going on in their life they just don't want to prove. Right? Or again, if maybe they're just playing us. I don't know what it is, but just in my mind, I have to be thinking, what are these three options that might be out there? Now, if you feel the buyer might be stalling, appeal to the previously agreed upon timeline. So let's assume I asked clear questions. I did a great job up front. I found out timelines. I found out who's responsible for decisions. I will take it back by referencing that timeline and the need for the product and service. I might have to go back and hit on some of the key benefits of the solution. Remind the buyer that they, not you, need to make a decision quickly to take advantage of the current situation, or maybe the pain that exists without your solution, or maybe the needs, the objectives you started selling, again, back when you were asking clear questions and conveying your solution. Now, if you've qualified the opportunity, if you know that the prospect needs what you are selling and is convinced that your company can provide the best solution, then walking away isn't going to lose you the deal. That's you, salesperson. It's going to call their bluff. And if it doesn't, if they don't have a sense of urgency to solve a problem or capture an opportunity, then your deal may not have been well qualified to begin with. Okay, another thing to be aware of. Make sure the timing isn't the real issue. Now, the price objection you're hearing now may be related to a real-time cash or budget availability, not the value of your product or service. And if you're selling at the end of maybe a buyer's fiscal cycle, for example, the prospect may have most of their dollars already committed. That's a very real thing. Now, if you can get creative with financing options, or maybe push the deal forward enough so that it can be funded out of maybe a different quarter, a fiscal year, or budget, you may eliminate the pricing issue without directly addressing it. Nobody likes to push close dates out. I get that. But it may be worth it if you can preserve full price. And I bet your CFO will go for that option as well. All right, I may drive you crazy by making this point yet again, but as I stated throughout several slides already, most buyers are going to object to your price by default. They have nothing to lose when they do this. They know you want the sale, and one price objection isn't going to kill anything. Never mind 5 price objections. Now, most sellers, that's you, salespeople, immediately start negotiating to a lower price at this point, which is a clear sign to your buyer that not only was your first quote inflated, but your second quote probably has wiggle room in it as well. If you instead stand up for your pricing and your product's value, you're sending a message to the buyer that the original price quoted is real. See, salespeople are often surprised when they find that this simple tactic gets the first quote accepted without further negotiation. Again, not every time. I live in the real world too, right? Now, if your prospect perceives your price to be above or equal to the value of your product or service, your value proposition has failed. It's up to you, the salesperson, to develop the value prop further and change the conversation from price to performance. You see, this is why precise selling and using what you learned in the live class is so important. Because if we build the walls or bring the walls down, if we're prepared, if we ask the right questions, if we deliver a great presentation, that's adding value, right? I mean, that's our story. It's why someone should spend money with us. Now, not sure how to confirm if understanding the value proposition is an issue. That's my question to you, right? How do you confirm that maybe I didn't pump up the value of this thing? Well, it's real simple. Let's go back to the E of precise. It's ask your prospects. And I love this question. Would you use our product if it was free? Right? Now, again, if you build a good relationship, the walls are down, you can have that conversation. If they say, yeah, I'd buy it if it was free, well, at least you demonstrated that the product's useful. See, but the value exchange is not clear. You have uncovered a trigger to negotiate on price. Now, from here, get the prospect back on track by focusing on their needs. Go back to your engagement with questions, those bullets you wrote down in your notepad, and how your product or service can solve their issue. Can you demonstrate the ROI that would derive from solving that problem? Right? It's essential to show the prospect how much money you can make or save them. And once you achieve that, price objections have a tendency to quickly evaporate. And maybe a brief free trial could also work wonders to demonstrate the value. All right. What do we say when a customer says, I can get it cheaper somewhere else? Well, we already discussed the 3 choice options. We discussed the 3 columns and how we could be better prepared to negotiate. But, sometimes it's just okay to know what's going to come out of your mouth. And again, I'll never forget the time when I was down in Bloomington, Indiana, and a internal medicine doctor looked at me after a great presentation. I felt like I kicked butt on this thing, and the customer said, Brian, I got to be honest with you, I can get it cheaper somewhere else. And we were competing against 2 other equipment manufacturers. And for the first time in my life, after practicing what I would say on my drive from Chicago down to Bloomington, this came out of my mouth. And I said this. I said, doctor, facilities look for 3 things when they spend money. And I've been working with Welch Allen for the past 7 years now. And I think one thing I learned when working with internal medicine docs is they look for 3 things. They want the finest quality scope, right, so that they don't miss any pathology or any polyps in that colon. They want the best service, which means the peace of mind of knowing that they won't have to reschedule a patient. So we're going to have a new product show up the next day, and you can keep your schedule. Of course, everyone wants the lowest price. But, there's no company in our industry, I don't care if it's Pentax, Welch Allen, Olympus, or Fujinon, that can offer you all 3 things. Now, I'm curious, as you make this decision for your long-term happiness, which of the 3 can you most be willing to give up? I mean, is it okay for you to maybe not go with a video scope in the technology we discussed? Are you okay knowing you might have to wait with no 24-hour loaner policy, or can you live without the difference in the price? I can't answer that, only you can. And I paused, and it was the most painful pause in my life because I wanted to just keep yapping. And this customer looked at me and said, do you think there's a risk in going back to an old fiber scope? Do you really think that I won't be able to get the 24-hour loaner policy with the other customers? I said, I don't know. You had a demo with them. Obviously, they didn't tell you they'd do that. And that day I walked out with a lease agreement and the first month's check, and it hit me. I said, how often was I going to do presentations and I knew I was going to hear I get it cheaper somewhere else, and I didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth. But by sitting down with a group of great sales reps and coming up with what we would call the script, and then by practice drilling and rehearsing it, and then actually using it in the field, it made me money that day. So think through what would come out of your mouth when you hear I can get it cheaper somewhere else. All right, it's also really important that you're good in a financial presentation by doing the math for them, right? The ROI. The price is one thing, but ROI is another. Price is right now, unfortunately in most cases, but the buyer has to make a commitment and write a check. But if they've effectively done the value translation, or better yet, you've helped them do the math because you did a great 7 steps of the precise actions, they know that a small investment now will pay big dividends down the road. And maybe in the form of higher revenue, lower costs, better efficiency, a combination of all these benefits. So buyers and decision makers, especially procurement departments, too often get focused on upfront costs. And I'm not teaching you anything you didn't already know about that, right? But they often don't think, what is the expense? Right? What am I giving up in the expense of a long-term value? Sure, I'm saving 5%, but long-term it's really costing me. So make sure, especially when it comes to negotiating terms, that the buyer fully understands and can communicate to others in the organization the value and the long-term impact of an investment with you. All right, let's do a little brief recap as we come to the end of our session. First thing, be prepared. Remember, be involved in the financial presentation, and you'll be confident. Your posture will be awesome if you are prepared. Next, just as they're trying to aim low on the price, why don't you aim high? So think through with 3 options. What other opportunity can I put in there that may pull more GP dollars out of them? Next, always ask for something. You see, they're always asking for something. Well, anytime you give, you make sure you get something in return. Never give without getting. Next, ask the right person. Build relationships deep and wide in those organizations so one person doesn't have the power to dominate your business. And last, be willing to walk. And don't forget the 3 P's of the precise selling formula. P number 1 is posture. It's your attitude and enthusiasm. Next, pick knowledge. Spend 30 to 60 minutes each week doing nothing but learning something new. And then your 7 precise actions. Heck, if we put on great presentations either on the phone or in person, when we come time to price negotiation, will be so valuable to them that, hey, maybe they'll be willing to spend a little bit more money. So the 3 P's, keep them in front of you. And don't forget our 7 precise actions. Remember the P, always have an objective or 2 before you walk into a call. Build respect and trust by thanking them for their time. Engage them with great questions. Who, what, when, why, where, how. And, of course, clear questions. Convey solutions. Put a show on, right? That's where the real value comes in handy. So when you hit the price, you've built so much value into your conveying of solution. Indecision, you're going to get objections. Don't forget to isolate them. Secure agreement. Be part of the financial presentation by working closely with your internal, external teams. Together, you will become great negotiators. And always explore for more business. Ask for referrals, introductions within those facilities, and ask for maybe other product sales. Man, one of the great things about this new organization of Test Equity and all the companies associated with it is you have so much stuff to sell them, so keep exploring. And my final plug, don't forget to use your precise call sheet. You see, life is an error-making and an error-correcting process. You will learn from every call. And if you just take a couple minutes after those calls to think about what you did well and where you need to improve, each call will get you closer to the top. You will be better than the average sales rep who walks in that door and picks up that phone. So on behalf of the entire Precise Selling Company, I want to say thank you, and I look forward to seeing you in our very next webinar. Take care. See you at the top.